Hello and welcome back. This is the first video that I've done in quite a while actually, so you'll have to bear with me because I've completely forgotten how to speak on a video. I've spent about 10 attempts trying to say, hello, welcome back. It's just terrible. But yeah, this is my first video back in quite a while, and it's a bit of an impromptu one because Jurassic World Evolution 2 was literally just announced, or well, recently announced, probably not by the time this video comes out, but as many of you probably know who watch my videos, a lot of the content on my channel, or at least a good bulk of it, is centered around Jurassic World Evolution. So I kind of figured, if my first video back, and while it's just popped up, that I would just talk about some things that I'd love to see in the sequel game. Now, what we're gonna do today is I'm gonna watch the trailer first and foremost, and then after the trailer, which isn't very long, I'll just be sort of playing Jurassic World Evolution and talking about what I'd like to see in the sequel, and that's pretty much it. It's a nice, easy video, so I hope you enjoy.
We ignored all the warnings. Forgot the lessons. We abused our power.
Wow, so this looks like it's taking place, it's like this is running alongside Dominion.
Like it was a toy. We weren't careful. And now, here we are. This is a very different world.
Very nice. So, oh my god. A little tease of an aquatic creature as well. So, yeah, this looks to be running concurrent to the events of Dominion, which is awesome because it means let me just double check. There's nothing. No, there's nothing else. So, yeah, that's great. Really great trailer. It shows that the game is running concurrent to the events of Dominion, or at the very least, it's heavily inspired by it. So we're probably going to get a lot of gameplay centered around that, rather than we'll be leaving the Las Cinco Muertes behind. I would kind of like it still if they still left some of them available, maybe, because I feel like a lot of the first game missed the mark, and it would be a shame to sort of have the classic islands sort of segregated to the first game instead of being also incorporated into this one, because I'm assuming there's going to be new dinosaurs, new sort of placeable objects and buildings, and a lot more variety in this game because it's the sequel, and I'm assuming they've been given like a bigger budget, and they've been given the freedom to do more things. So I would be hoping for sort of the Las Cinco Muertes to kind of be in there somewhere, at the very least. Like, if you're not going to give us all 5 or 6, give us like Sauna and Nublar, because I don't know, I just feel like they're too important to kind of like leave it all together. But yeah, it looks like a lot of the gameplay, at the very least, is going to be based around what the US or maybe I don't know. We don't know what's going to happen in Dominion, but maybe globally, which is great. It means it's going to be a completely fresh game. Really, it's going to feel a lot different, and I'm really glad they're doing a sequel. So what I'm going to do now, watch the trailer. We will just go right into talking about what I want to see in the sequel. See you in a minute. Okay, so we're actually back here on the test island that I made for my Jurassic World Evolution base game review, because I thought this would be like the best way to sort of explain some of the things that I want to see in the sequel by referring back to that review a little bit. I apologize if the gameplay is like at all laggy or jumpy. It seems like, for whatever reason, it's just a little bit laggy and jumpy for me. But anyway, it shouldn't matter too much because this video is more about my thoughts and opinions rather than, like the way the game looks. Now, first of all, what I want to talk about for what I want to see in the sequel is, admittedly, I want bigger maps. And I know that probably seems like an obvious one, but we're on Matanceros here. It's not terribly small, and I like that they kind of had like a bit of a variation. So you had like like Sauna was huge, and Nublar was pretty big, but then like Penna was like quite small because it gives you like a challenge, doesn't it? To you've got to try and like build with what you have, and I do like that idea. But I also think that we do need more bigger, sort of like maps and stuff like Sauna, because you do get to a point where there are so many dinosaurs in the game, and sometimes you can't always fit everything in that you want to, and it's not such an issue on like the campaign and stuff, but if you're on sandbox mode, you want to be like building these huge expansive parks, and sometimes it feels like you can't do that. So yeah, that would be my sort of like first one. The other part of that is actually to do with maps as well. So I want more customization options. So as an example, when you first start on Matanceros, if you remember, you kind of just have like trees everywhere, and there's a bit of water here and there and stuff. But the thing is it's the same every time, isn't it? Like no matter what, when you start a new map, when you start a new game on Matanceros, or like a new build on Sandbox or whatever, it's always the same. And I would quite like the idea of like randomizing the space, like having the ability to sort of like you press a button, and similar to like say in Minecraft where it populates the world and it populates differently each time. I would like the idea of you hit the like randomize button and you come onto whatever, let's say it was Nublar in JWE2 or something like that. You come onto the map and there's maybe last time there was all trees over here, this time it's water, or it's rocks, or maybe it's a cliff, or maybe it's like a cave or something. Something. I just think it would keep it more fresh, because each time you went onto a map, you wouldn't know what to expect the same. You would go into it and you would see a completely different landscape to anything you previously had, and it would still set up those different challenges, because let's say there was a lot of cliffs. Well, you've got to spend time terraforming. Maybe you'd have to spend, if you wasn't doing the sandbox mode, maybe you was doing like a challenge mode or something, maybe you'd be up against it straight away, because you've got to spend a lot of money leveling the ground out and things like that. I just think that would provide a more varied experience, and it would be better to sort of come onto a map and not know exactly what to expect. I think further to that as well, we do have like in the first JW, we do have some good sort of like weather effects. We do have obviously day and night. We have I think there was like storms and stuff, but with Dominion taking place either globally or at least across the US, where the dinosaurs have sort of are now roaming free, I would quite like to see all kinds of weather conditions, so like maybe like sandstorms or snow, or I suppose we get like tornadoes and hurricanes in this one, but basically anything and everything we can, because at least in the US, throughout the year they go through all kinds of weather conditions, don't they? Or at the very least, you could go through the different seasons and have like autumn and spring and summer, and I think that'd be really cool to see. And you could even sort of incorporate that with the dinosaurs and the sort of like the Kerr mechanics and stuff. So like maybe I'm not saying for definite, because I feel like it might be a little bit tricky, but like where you've got the Triceratops here and you've got the it's sort of comfort levels and stuff like that. Well, in this game, when the hurricanes came, the comfort level was decreasing, but maybe you could have like other things, like maybe certain dinosaurs need to be hot, maybe certain dinosaurs need to be cold, and they have objects that you can place in their exhibits to keep them hot or to keep them cold. So let's say you were cycling through the seasons and this Triceratops needed to be kept warm, but it was winter and it was snowing, you could have a heater in their exhibit, and that would help to, you know, sort of rectify that issue. I know that Planet Zoo has things like that, and that's just kind of, I'm going to get onto that point in a minute, but basically it would be nice to sort of see the weather affect the dinosaurs more and have more, you know, like more options basically. At least I think so anyway. So that's pretty much it for the sort of maps for me personally. I think we're going to get a lot of varied maps with it being, you know, not limited to the Las Cinco Muertes, but I guess we'll see. Next point, pretty sure we're already getting this one, but obviously more dinosaurs. If we was to have a quick look here, and this is, I did not mean to, I didn't realise there was one releasing, but if we was to have a look in a second at what dinosaurs there are a lot, and I have got the DLC as well, you know, like the carnivore pack and the herbivore pack and things like that, but there's still a lot of dinosaurs in this game, so I don't think by any means they did badly with the dinosaurs in terms of variation, because there is a lot of them, and, you know, they are unique. But obviously we could have more, and we saw the tease at the end of the trailer with the aquatic animal. We did, you know, that would be great to have, wouldn't it? It would be amazing to have an aquatic animal, or, well, animals. Same with, you know, those that rule the skies, you know, pterodactyls, dimorphodons, that kind of thing. Those would be great to see as well. We got the aviary in the Jurassic Park DLC, but that was it, and I don't think that's enough personally. That's not really, it felt more just like something they just added on rather than it being a genuine part of the game. So all of these things, you know, are probably going to come, and I can't wait for them, yeah. So that's a really obvious one, but at least there you go. And like I said, we already did get a lot in this game. I mean, look how many there are. There are a lot. You can't really, I don't think you can be negative about the amount or the variation, but that's just for dinosaurs. You know, when we're talking about the aquatic animals and those that rule the skies, we do need those as well, in my opinion. Right, I'm sorry about this. The video is going to seem a little bit disjointed because what are parents for if not to you know, interrupt you while you're recording? So cheers, Mum. So basically my next point was we need more buildings, more foliage, decorations, you know, skins, that kind of thing. Now, as an example, if we have a look here, I basically, for the review of Jurassic World Evolution, I basically put all the buildings out pretty much. I put everything I could out, you know, from like paths to the foliage to the terrain, you know, the feeders, the sort of the different buildings and stuff, and this is everything. And I think that's pretty sad, to be honest, because I could even go back to Zoo Tycoon and there'd be more placeable things than are in this game. And that's a shame with, you know, obviously how old that game is compared to how new this game is. So we're going to go through these first of all. So these are all the guest buildings, which in my opinion, just definitely not enough to keep a varied sort of refreshing experience with the game, because you've got, what, how many have we got here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and that's pushing it really. I mean, you could go 12 with the monorail, but that's pushing it really, considering like one of them's a restroom and things like that. You know, they are obviously different buildings, but the same skin. You know, there's no difference really, like each time you place one. And I think every time you start a new build or you start a new map or whatever, these are not enough to keep the game fresh. You know what I mean? Like, you're looking at the same things all the time. There's no variation, there's no difference. And I get that Jurassic World had, like, you know, this would be the restaurant, so that would be like, you know, the design that they have, and it's very reminiscent of sort of like, you know, like places that are chains, kind of like trying to think of an example, but like, you know, most McDonald's will look the same. So I get that, but the thing is this is a game, you know what I mean? We need more things to do. We can't just have these and that's it. I will say for like operations that these are probably enough, because I mean you can only have one fossil center anyway, you can only have one research center. They're more for mechanics, and I think you don't want to overcomplicate the gameplay mechanics. I think we've got enough of those to sort of keep things like varied. But things like the ACU Center and the Ranger Station and Expedition Center, or even these, we could have different skins for them. We could have different designs for them. We could have different, do you know what I mean? Like things like that. Even if you're not gonna give us, literally different buildings, give us different skins, give us different designs. You know what I mean? Like, why have we only got one hotel? Why can't we have different hotels? Why can we only have, one toy shop? Why can't things look different? And I think that's the biggest problem with the base game, is that it's not got enough variation. So yes, Jurassic World Evolution 2 really needs it. Even things like paths, that's all the paths in the game. The rocks, you know what I mean? They're all the same colour, they're just like slightly different in shape and size. Foliage, I guess, is just foliage. So there's not much you can do, but I mean, there's still different colours of trees. You know what I mean? Not everything has to be green. There are other other foliage that is different colours, and this is kind of what I was saying about if you had the different seasons. When things got to autumn, the trees could change colour. They could look different. In winter, they could be bare, and then they could grow back again in spring. Like, these are things that we need to keep the game looking different, to keep it looking fresh. You could, if it snowed, you could have snow over the trees, like just things like that. Same with the terrains to a degree. You've got like rock, sand, dirt. You've got the normal grass, but then these kind of look very similar. I mean, I have seen some people do some like amazing things. To be fair, I'm not going to say that they're awful, because people can make really good stuff with these. But I just think, give us more. Where's like I know we got sand, but where's like a desert sand instead of like a beach sand? Why can't we have like, I don't know, like gravel or what else? There's tons of stuff you could have. I think of I mean, I'm terrible. I can't think of anything, but there's tons of terrains that you could have. I remember in Zoo Tycoon, they had deciduous, terrain and rainforest terrain and things like that. So you could have tons of different stuff. And I think that's if there's one thing that I could say, like the biggest thing that I could say that I want to see in the sequel, it is its variation. Because when you look at that screen and you go, right, everything that you can sort of place is on this map, I think that's really sad. You know what I mean? I've essentially put all of them down, and they don't even take up that much space. It just goes to show that it's difficult to create a varied environment in this game. So yeah, moving on. I'm going to say next, more depth to the gameplay itself. And what I mean by that is so in things like Zoo Tycoon or Planet Zoo, you've got a lot more things to be getting on with than you have in Jurassic World Evolution. I think there's obviously you've got the missions and you've got the contracts, but they're often very repetitive and a bit boring. Not so much the missions. The missions can be good, but the contracts are very monotonous and just kind of they're a box checker more than anything. And I think there could be more things to sort of keep things varied and give a bit of depth to the gameplay as well as. So I'm not just talking about depth in terms of the placeable objects and stuff, but in terms of the gameplay itself as well. And I think a big part of that is things like the animations for the dinosaurs. They're very rigid. They're very we've seen them, I've shown the fighting, where one of them squares up to the other one and they rear their head and they both sort of stand back, and then they just take the same biting animation, and it's I don't know, it's like watching robots. It's not realistic at all. It's like a real immersion breaker. So I think it definitely, even though the game looks great, like now we look at when they're all just walking around and stuff, it looks great, but it doesn't have much substance to it. And I think that's a lot of people's complaints right there, really, is that the game needs to sort of feel more alive, you know what I mean? Like all these guests. Do you remember in Zoo Tycoon, like in my Zoo Tycoon playthrough, you could click on guests and you could like see what the thoughts were and what they were doing. And like in this game, I mean, look at them, they're all like pointing at this building and like going like, wow, wow, and it just doesn't, they don't feel alive, they don't feel like real people. The dinosaurs sometimes, like they feel real, but then as soon as they get into a fight or something like that, they're communicating like in a circle, like I don't know, they just, because it's so repetitive, they don't necessarily feel alive all of the time. And like I said, that is a real immersion breaker over time. So yeah, we need more depth to the gameplay itself as well. My next thing would probably be, so not just like not just depth in the gameplay like what I've just said with the animations and the more things to place and like more missions and better challenges, like the contract system being better in general. I'm also talking about I would like to see like more mini games and modes available. So obviously we've got like sandbox, challenge and campaign, but if we could get like a couple of other stuff in there as well, like that would be I'm trying to think of like examples of this. This is a tough one because it's obviously the type of game that it is, it's limited, but I feel like now that it's like sort of running alongside Dominion, you could probably get more varied game modes in there. So like I'm trying to think of an example, but like let's say you could have one where you've got to go and capture dinosaurs, like you've got to go to like a zone and you're acting as like a member of like, not necessarily InGen, but like that kind of thing, or on behalf of the government, you've got to capture some dinosaurs and like retrieve them, and then you could bring them to your, like your little sanctuary or your little park or whatever it is that they're planning. I just think more things like that would be appreciated, because like I said again, the contract's very monotonous. It's like, oh, just take a photo of this dinosaur, or have this dinosaur kill this dinosaur, or earn so much from, earn so much profit from guest buildings and stuff. And it over time, it just becomes very apparent that it's the same over and over again. So yeah, I think I would like to see more sort of variation in, the actual like mini games and challenges and modes and things like that. Now admittedly, I will say that that's a tough one, because personally I haven't really been able to provide a solid example there. Like I myself have struggled to say what exactly it is that I'd like to see, and that's because this is an initial thoughts, you know what I mean? I haven't had time to sort of like properly sleep on it and think about it and spend every minute thinking about it. It's just off the top of my head, what would I like to see? So that is a tough one, and I'm sure they will get some more things to put in past just the contracts and stuff. I think the last thing that I'm going to make as a point before I sort of sum up is that I would kind of like to see Camp Cretaceous incorporated a little bit. Now, I don't think this is going to be at the top of everyone's list, which is why I've left it for last. And I also don't think it's going to be at the top of Frontier's list, like not even close probably. It'll be probably more tying it into Dominion. So, but what I would like to see is, I don't mean story elements from Camp Cretaceous or anything like that. I literally just mean, like skins for the dinosaurs, like maybe like Bumpy or the Baryonyx, or maybe just Easter eggs throughout, like maybe they could give us some Camp Cretaceous signs to place down, or like some trees that have like camp, like that have like tree houses in, like that are Camp Cretaceous themed, like just things like that would sort of like flesh it out and would make the game more varied, but would also like tie in something that has been brilliant as of recently. If you're a Jurassic Park or Jurassic World fan, Camp Cretaceous has been brilliant, so it would serve both the purpose of making the game more varied, but also of, like I said, sort of tying in an aspect of the franchise that isn't very tied in at the moment. It is in terms of the show. Like, when you watch the show, it has a lot of references and a lot of things in it that really are great, but I just mean that it would be nice to see it in the game as well. You know what I mean? Like, can you imagine getting things like the Camp Cretaceous signs, the skins, you know, maybe even have like a guest or two that's like wearing like Camp Cretaceous tops, or I don't know, just like things like that. I mean, I don't even know if we're gonna get guests, to be honest, because I have no idea what this game's gonna be like, because while it looks like it's very much like Dominion oriented, surely they're still going to provide like parks and stuff. Surely it's going to be both, you know what I mean? It's going to be like a bit like Closed Sanctuary, where they're like trying to rescue the dinosaurs, or they're trying to capture them and you've got to like relocate them and stuff, but also like building up your own park or something. It's got to be in there, because if it's not, I'd be very, very surprised if it wasn't. And so yeah, that's pretty much everything from me points wise. So all I want to sum up with, you know, like my overall thoughts, is that this entire video has just been me rambling. So if there's anything you don't agree with, that's fine. And if there's anything you want to add, you can put it in the comments, because I watched the trailer 10 minutes ago and I've just started talking about it. So these are all off the top of my head. So if there's anything that I've missed or anything that doesn't quite make sense, it's because I've not really had much time to think about it, so just let me know. But yeah, to sum up, for me, the overall, the biggest thing that I want to see in this sequel is depth. I want to see depth in gameplay. I want to see depth in the animations and the way the dinosaurs behave. I want to see depth in the way the guests interact with the park or whatever it is. I want to see more buildings, more environments, more foliage, more terrain, more options to customize the map, bigger maps, like all that stuff that basically, excuse me, when I was a kid and I used to play Zoo Tycoon, I would go back and I would make zoo after zoo after zoo after zoo, because it was fun and because it had so much variation that it was so easy to go back and play it over and over and over again. I could make 10 zoos in 10 days and every one of them could be massively, massively different to the other one. It had so much options for customization, and I think Planet Zoo is very much like that. If we could get that in a Jurassic World game, that would be amazing. I would love to play it over and over again and make like completely unique maps, but it just feels very difficult to do that at the minute in this game because of the lack of variation and depth. And more to the point, you know, when you've made your park, like I love making the parks, but then once I've made them, you know, I do struggle sometimes to like walk around, like just enjoy the park and admire the park, because while I do like what I've built, very often the dinosaurs don't behave, you know, like realistically. Like I've said, when you know, like when they're fighting and stuff, it's not particularly. They look nice when they're walking around now, but they don't. They're very repetitive over time, basically, and I feel like that could be cleared up quite easily, but it's just been overlooked. You know, it's kind of like someone who's beautiful but has no substance to them. That's kind of what this game feels like. You know, it's great to look at, and I thoroughly enjoy like watching everything unfold and like looking around, but over time you realise that it's actually quite empty in a lot of regards. And I'm not saying for everything, because the game is good and I enjoy it. I've spent a lot of time on it, but I do think that it needs a lot more adding to it, a lot more, and it could be quite easily done. I feel like it's just, I don't know if it's laziness, or I don't know if it's like a budget thing, or just they didn't have enough time, but I don't think it would be that difficult to introduce more buildings and more terrain and things like that. You know, It just wouldn't, and it would pad out the game so well. It would just make everybody would love it, and I've seen everybody clamoring for it. I've seen people asking for signs and placeable objects and decorations and just all those things that would just make things slightly better. And they've never really done it. So yeah. Anyway, that's everything from me. Thanks a lot for watching, because I have just rambled on, and I mean I have just rambled on. Like I said, if there's anything you don't agree with, that's fine, just let me know. And if there's anything you can think of that you want to add on to what I've said, just let me know in the comments. And yeah, that's everything. Here's to hoping that this one is like insanely good. This is the Fossil Fool, signing out.